A kind of madness has gripped the world where terrorists who raped, maimed and killed any in their wake, be you Israeli, Palestinian, Gentile, Muslim or Jew, appear to be being glorified. I'm talking about October the 7th, 2023, a day that will be forever etched in my mind as an horrific attack on civilization, which most cannot imagine even in their wildest and most brutal nightmares. Make no mistake, the Hamas terrorists who did this were there to kill Jews and celebrate their bloodbath. Now, this is abundantly clear, and it's clear in their own covenant. Yet, within days of this savage massacre, and before any retaliation from Israel, there appeared to be what can only be described as a well of support glorifying these attacks, and from certain fractions, no condemnation of Hamas whatsoever. In fact, there was almost a sort of they deserve it vibe from some corners, which I find unfathomable. The BBC couldn't even call Hamas out as terrorists. Israel obviously retaliated. They did what any country around the world would do to express their outrage at the barbarism. October the 7th marked the end of a ceasefire which had been dogged by Gazan missile attacks on Israel, who protected themselves not with return fire, but with an iron dome, a system which shoots down and eviscerates missiles in the air before they hit the ground. Look, I'm not in support of mass killing on any level, but this was the start of war and the beginning of more death, and today marks 100 days since it began. But what the hell is going on? Since that day, we've had weekly pro-Palestinian protests with anti-Semitic chanting. Ex-Home Secretary Suella Braverman described them as hate marches, people chanting from the river to the sea, the carrying of racist banners from people who appeared to be perfectly respectable, like this teacher holding one which depicts Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman as coconuts. Jewish people afraid to leave their homes, and of course the British taxpayer picking up the tab to police all of these marches. Now, it may not say... I'm not saying that many of the protesters are not calling for peace and demanding a ceasefire, but their cries for this were drowned out by the anti-Semitic chanting. Across the world, we've had prominent university heads refusing to acknowledge anti-Semitism.
Dr. Kornbluth, at MIT, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate MIT's code of conduct or rules regarding bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
If targeted at individuals, not making public statements.
Yes or no? Calling for the genocide of Jews does not constitute bullying and harassment?
I have not heard calling for the genocide for Jews on our campus.
But you've heard chants for intifada.
I've heard chants which can be anti-Semitic depending on the context when calling for the elimination of the Jewish people.
So those would not be according to the MIT's code of conduct or rules?
That would be investigated as harassment if pervasive and severe.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
I am asking specifically calling for the genocide of Jews. Does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill.
People have tied themselves in knots trying to justify all of this. Even the unlikely partner of South Africa, who lost 2 of their own during the massacre, got involved. Its leaders meeting with Hamas militants before accusing Israel of genocide. And yesterday, Jeremy Corbyn addressed an anti-Israel demo in London, where activists were backing Houthi terrorists who this week attacked shipping lanes in the Red Sea. Protesters were chanting, "Yemen, Yemen, make us proud, turn another ship around." I literally cannot believe what I am hearing and seeing. The US and UK are protecting shipping, which has nothing to do with the Israel-Hamas conflict. Yet people are now chanting in the streets in the UK in support of the Houthis. And of course, in the meantime, the bombs continue to be fired from both camps, from Israel and Gaza. And more people are dying The whole thing is a mess. In my view, this is a lose-lose. Mass death, mass anger, and never-ending revenge.